Okay, let's dive into something deeply practical today. We're going to unpack the English language learning journey, specifically zeroing in on those common traps, the things that can genuinely hinder your quest for fluency. Our source material for this deep dive is a really insightful article. It dissects the most frequent mistakes English learners seem to encounter. Our mission, well, it's to give you a clear shortcut to understanding not just what might be holding you back, but also why these pitfalls are so common, and crucially, how you can truly overcome them. We've got some fresh perspectives and some actionable solutions here. So let's jump right in. First up, a habit that many learners maybe understandably overlook while they're focusing hard on grammar and vocabulary: pronunciation.
Ah, yes, pronunciation.
It might seem secondary sometimes, but the article really highlights this. Poor pronunciation can significantly impede communication. Even if your grammar is absolutely perfect, you might know all the right words, but if they're not articulated clearly.
The message just gets lost, doesn't it?
Exactly. And what's often overlooked here is the impact beyond just, individual sounds.
That's a crucial distinction, yeah. It's not just about hitting every single sound perfectly. It's also about the rhythm, the stress, the intonation of English, what linguists sometimes call prosody.
OTOSD, right? Yeah.
Mispronouncing words, or even just having an unnatural rhythm, it leads directly to misunderstandings. And that can cause a lot of frustration, for both the speaker and the listener.
Mm.
Our brains are kind of wired to interpret these subtle cues, these musical elements of speech. And when they're off, communication becomes, well, like trying to solve a puzzle.
Like music played out of tempo.
Exactly like that. The notes might be technically correct, but the feeling, the overall meaning, it's lost.
Okay, so how do you tackle this deeper level of pronunciation then, beyond just repeating words?
Well, one really effective technique is shadowing native speakers.
Shadowing.
Yeah, you listen and repeat almost simultaneously. You're trying to mimic their intonation, their rhythm, the whole flow. Focusing on minimal pairs helps too. Words that sound similar, like ship and sheep, that trains your ear and your mouth. And critically, this is when people often skip record your own speech.
How brave.
Huh? Yeah, it can be. But listen back. You'd be genuinely surprised what you hear that you just don't notice while you're speaking.
That's a brilliant point about prosody, and the recording tip is great, if a little daunting. And speaking of things that can hinder that smooth flow of communication, sometimes it's not what you say, but how much you agonize over saying it perfectly. Which brings us neatly to a common paradox: overthinking grammar.
Ah, yes. The perfection trap.
Right. While grammar is essential, obviously, for structuring thoughts, obsessing over every single tiny mistake can actually paralyze you.
Yeah.
What's the real impact of that kind of mental freeze when someone's just trying to chat?
It's a classic dilemma, really. The ultimate goal in language learning isn't necessarily grammatical perfection, is it?
No, I guess not.
It's communicative competence. You want to be understood and you want to understand others. That's the core. When you overthink grammar, you massively increase your cognitive load. Meaning your brain is spending way too much energy on rules and structures and not enough on the actual meaning and expressing yourself. And this often leads to hesitancy, right? It interrupts your natural thought process, makes conversations feel, well, stilted and awkward.
Okay, so what's the fix? Just ignore grammar.
Not ignore it, no, but prioritize getting your message across. Fluency over perfection, initially at least. Trust that those grammar rules will become more intuitive over time. They really do, with consistent exposure and practice. Don't let the pursuit of perfection stop you from getting those crucial speaking reps in. That's so important.
Like learning to ride a bike.
Exactly. You don't learn by reading the manual on gear ratios, do you?
Uh-huh.
You learn by pedaling, maybe falling off a few times and getting back on. Same principle.
That's a powerful analogy. And this idea of cognitive load and maybe rigid thinking leads us really neatly into another prevalent issue: directly translating from your native language.
Oh, yes. Very common.
Learners literally translate phrases word for word, and, well, more often than not, it results in awkward, unnatural.
Sometimes completely nonsensical sentences.
Right. Sentences that native English speakers find really difficult or maybe impossible to understand. Why is this habit so sticky, even for people who are quite advanced?
It's partly a natural instinct, isn't it? It's a form of language transfer from your L1, your first language, but yeah, it can be a significant roadblock.
Because things just don't map one-to-one.
Exactly. While some direct translations might accidentally work, a vast number of expressions, idioms, even common sentence structures are pretty unique to English. Your brain tries to find the most efficient path, you see, and that's often defaulting to what it already knows.
Makes sense.
But English doesn't always operate on the same logical framework as, say, Spanish or Mandarin or Hindi.
So how do you retrain that instinct?
You have to actively try to think in English as much as possible.
Which means
It means things like having internal monologues in English, narrating your day to yourself, maybe describing objects around you, all silently in English.
like a running commentary in your head.
Precisely. And instead of focusing on literal word-for-word translation, learn common phrases, idiomatic expressions, phrasal verbs. Learn them as complete chunks, as units of meaning. Immerse yourself not just in isolated words, but in how those words naturally combine and flow together.
That thinking in English strategy sounds incredibly effective, though probably takes practice. And speaking of immersion, let's talk about something that's, well, equally vital to speaking, but often gets ignored. Dedicated listening practice.
Absolutely critical.
Many learners focus heavily on reading and writing, which are great, obviously, for building foundational knowledge. But if you neglect the listening part, you'll find it incredible.
Exactly.
And this raises a really important question. How can you truly become conversant if you can't actually process spoken English at its natural speed, with all its variations?
Right.
Exposure to different accents, different speech patterns, the rhythm of natural conversation. Getting that through dedicated listening is absolutely crucial. It's how your brain starts to intuitively map sounds to meaning and recognize common phrases without you even having to think about it consciously.
So it's not just understanding the words.
No, it's understanding the flow of conversation, the ebb and flow, the interaction.
Okay, practical solutions then. How do we do this?
Integrate diverse English language media into your daily routine. It has to become a habit. Watch movies, TV shows, YouTube videos, things you actually enjoy. Maybe start with subtitles in English, then gradually try turning them off.
Reduces the reliance.
Exactly. Tune into podcasts or audiobooks on topics that interest you. This exposes you to a huge variety of accents and colloquialisms, often in a fairly low-pressure way. Don't just hear the words, try to really listen, feel the rhythm, the stress patterns, the flow. That's a great practical tip. Make it enjoyable, make it routine. And often, as we listen and consume more English, we naturally encounter a broader vocabulary, which leads us to our next common pitfall, using the same vocabulary repeatedly.
Ah, the vocabulary rut.
Yeah. While it's totally natural to have comfort words, constantly reusing a limited set makes your speech sound, well, maybe a bit monotonous. Less fluent anyway. And it also severely limits your ability to express yourself precisely, dynamically.
Definitely. You might keep saying good when fantastic or excellent or superb or even just pretty decent would convey a much richer, more specific meaning.
Stepping back a bit, this really highlights how expanding your vocabulary isn't just about sounding smarter, is it?
Not at all. It's about enriching your ability to communicate nuanced thoughts and feelings. That's the key. A limited vocabulary can actually hinder your comprehension too, because you might miss subtle distinctions in what other people are saying.
Ah, good point.
It's really about adding depth and color to your expression. Makes you a more engaging speaker and, frankly, a better listener too.
So how do we actively combat this?
Make an active, conscious effort to introduce new words into your daily conversation. Don't just learn them passively from a list.
You have to use them.
Exactly. Use them or lose them, right. Actively seek out synonyms and antonyms to vary your language. Maybe consider using a vocabulary journal. Note down new words in context, not just the word in definition.
Add them.
And then make a conscious effort to actually use those new words within the next day or two. Force yourself a little. Language learning apps, flashcards, they're fantastic for consistent reinforcement, sure, but the absolute key is active recall and, importantly, application in real speech or writing.
That makes perfect sense. Vocabulary is about precision and richness. Now let's talk about another common speech habit, one that, when overused, can really detract from clarity and maybe even confidence. I'm talking about overusing fillers like or,
The filler words, yes, we all use them to some extent.
Of course. They're natural conversational elements in pretty much any language. But relying too heavily on them can make you sound less confident, maybe less fluent. It kind of clutters your speech, doesn't it? Slows down your ability to express thoughts clearly.
Yeah.
What's the brain science behind why we use these so much, and how can we break the habit?
Well, you hit on something important there. These fillers often stem from the brain's need to buy a little time while it's processing information or searching for the right word.
The processing pause.
Exactly. It's a natural pause filler, but when it's overdone, yeah, it can definitely sound like hesitation or uncertainty. Now, a really insightful approach here, and something the source material points out, is to try and replace those filler words with thoughtful pauses.
Just silence.
Just a brief silence. Strategically placed, it can actually give you more effective time to formulate your thoughts. And counterintuitively, perhaps, it significantly improves the quality and clarity of your speech. It makes you sound more deliberate, more confident, allows your message to land with more power, you know?
So how do you practice that? It sounds hard.
It involves mindfulness, mostly. Record yourself speaking again. See, recording is useful.
Oh, okay.
Identify your personal filler patterns. We all have our favorites. Then practice actively replacing those moments with silence. It feels really awkward at first, I won't lie. But with conscious effort, you can actually retrain your brain to use pauses as a positive tool for clear communication.
That's a remarkably practical tip, and it applies way beyond English learning, really. Okay, moving away from individual words or sounds now, let's explore another common trap, focusing only on formal English.
The textbook English syndrome.
Exactly. Many learners stick rigidly to that, neglecting the equally important informal and conversational aspects. But for real-life interactions, you absolutely need both. You wouldn't use super formal language to chat with a friend at a barbecue, would you?
Absolutely not. You'd sound very odd. And this raises an important question. How do you actually navigate the real world if your language is always, too stiff or academic? The need to understand and ideally use colloquialisms, slang, idiomatic expressions, it's paramount for truly natural and fluent communication.
They're the fabric of everyday chat.
Completely. They're the building blocks of everyday conversation, understanding pop culture references, building social connections. Without them, you're genuinely missing a significant chunk of the living, breathing language.
So how do you learn this informal English? It's not always in the books.
You have to seek it out. Engage in real conversations with native speakers whenever possible. Use language exchange apps, find online communities, or if you can, chat in person. Dive into authentic English media, things like podcasts, sitcoms, unscripted YouTube content where natural, informal speech is just abundant.
Pay attention to how people actually speak.
Exactly. The phrasal verbs they use constantly, how expressions shift meaning depending on the context. Be an observer.
That's spot on. The goal isn't just grammatical correctness, it's contextual appropriateness. Knowing when to use what. And speaking of consistent effort, our next point is, well, it's incredibly foundational, lack of consistent practice.
The consistency challenge.
It's so easy to get super motivated, study intensely for a week, and then take a long break.
Right. We've all been there.
Yeah. But this kind of inconsistency significantly slows down progress. It makes it really difficult for your brain to actually retain what you've learned.
It seems to be less about how much you study in one marathon sitting and much more about how often you engage with the language.
Why is that, from a learning perspective?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, consistency is basically king in language acquisition. It's down to principles of neuroplasticity.
Brain wiring.
Essentially, yes. Your brain forms and strengthens new neural pathways through regular reinforcement. Little and often. Short, daily practice sessions are far more effective than sporadic, longer sessions. Why? Because it keeps the language active in your mind. It allows for steady habit formation. It builds momentum. And crucially, it prevents the forgetting curve from wiping out your progress.
The forgetting curve, right.
So the advice is simple. Make language learning a daily habit.
Even just a little bit.
Even just 10-15 minutes a day. Maybe link it to an existing routine, your morning coffee, your commute, whatever works. That's far more effective than trying to cram an hour once a week, which often gets skipped anyway.
Set small goals, too.
Absolutely. Set achievable small goals, like learn 5 new words today, or review 1 grammar point, or listen to a 5-minute podcast clip. Consistency truly, truly compounds your efforts over time. It's like compound interest for your brain.
Consistency compounds.
I like that. That's very memorable. And okay, when you practice consistently, you inevitably make mistakes. Which brings us very neatly to our next crucial point. Not asking for feedback.
The fear of feedback.
Yeah, many learners really shy away from asking for any kind of criticism. Maybe they feel judgment or just feel embarrassed.
Understandable, but counterproductive.
Totally. But without knowing where you're making mistakes, it's incredibly difficult to pinpoint what you actually need to improve.
It's like trying to navigate a new city without a map. Or maybe without GPS these days. You're just wandering.
So what's the mindset shift needed here?
What's truly insightful, I think, is reframing feedback. Don't see it as criticism. See it as valuable data.
Data for improvement.
Exactly. It's a critical part of the learning loop. Specific feedback gives you concrete insights into what you need to work on. It turns those vague feelings of, I'm not good enough,
Huh.
into actionable steps you can take.
Right.
Without feedback, you might just be practicing your errors over and over, basically solidifying bad habits without even realizing it. Okay, so how do you get this feedback practically?
You have to actively seek it out. Be brave. Ask native speakers or language teachers for specific input on your speaking and your writing.
Don't just say, how's my English?
No, be specific. Could you tell me if my pronunciation of this word was clear? Or did that sentence structure sound natural? Use language learning platforms. Too many have features where you can get corrections and advice from other users or tutors. Embrace every piece of feedback you get as a gift. Seriously. It helps you learn faster and much more efficiently.
That's a great perspective shift, turning critique into a tool for growth, not something to fear. And this leads directly, I think, to what I would argue is maybe one of the biggest barriers of all, not embracing mistakes, full stop.
Ah, the fear of failure itself.
Exactly. The fear of making any error often leads learners to just avoid speaking English altogether, especially in front of others.
Which means missing out on the most crucial practice opportunities.
It's like trying to learn to cook, but you're absolutely terrified of getting your hands dirty or burning something.
Perfect analogy. And this really raises an important question about mindset, doesn't it? We need to fundamentally reframe mistakes. They are not failures. They are essential signposts of progress. That's what they are. Every single mistake is a learning opportunity. It's a moment where you identify a gap in your knowledge or perhaps a habit that needs adjusting.
It shows you where to focus.
Precisely. Our brains learn best through trial and error. Think about it. That's how we acquire almost any complex skill, from walking to playing an instrument. If you're not making mistakes in your English learning journey, you're probably not pushing yourself enough. You're staying in your comfort zone.
So the solution is?
Simple, yet quite profound. Embrace mistakes. See them as a natural, necessary, even positive part of the learning process. Maybe even celebrate them quietly as evidence that you're actually engaging with the language, you're taking risks, you're growing.
Don't beat yourself up.
Absolutely not. The more you practice and the more you allow yourself to stumble and make those errors, the quicker you will identify your weak points and truly improve. It's a fundamental truth of skill acquisition. Errors are just data points on the path to mastery.
Wow. Okay. So to kind of recap everything we've talked about, becoming fluent in English, it's absolutely a journey. It requires time, definitely consistent effort, and a healthy dose of perseverance. And the goal, it seems, isn't about transforming into a walking dictionary or a perfect grammarian overnight.
No.
It's much more about building confidence and becoming an effective, clear, and hopefully engaging communicator.
That's it, exactly. What's truly fascinating, as we've explored all these common pitfalls, is that the overarching theme, the thread woven through every single point, it's not really about the pursuit of perfection at all.
Right.
It's about the cultivation of effective and confident communication. It's about achieving clarity, forging connection, and ultimately being able to express your authentic self in another language.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now, maybe embarking on or continuing your English learning journey? Well, remember, language isn't just about speaking flawlessly. It rarely is, even for native speakers.
True.
It's truly about connecting, about understanding, and about being understood, imperfections and all. So here's a final thought to mull over. How might embracing the beautiful messiness of learning, embracing those mistakes today, unlock a whole new level of confidence and maybe even joy in your English-speaking journey tomorrow?